Hey guys, I want to take you on a virtual tour of the Titanic and compare it to the scenes that we've seen in the trailers from Voyage of Despair. Treyarch has released 2 trailers for this map, and there's plenty of images to compare and see how closely they're actually getting to the real Titanic. I did this side-by-side comparison for Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead, and it was a lot of fun to see the differences, and I thought, yeah, I think I can definitely do this with the Titanic. There's a game currently being developed called Titanic Honor and Glory, and they are doing an authentic recreation of this ship, and they are currently in development, and you can go and check out the demo. And what I'm able to do is actually line the camera up with the same positions that it is in the Voyage of Despair trailer. And because Titanic Honor and Glory is accurate to the Titanic, I wanted to see how close is Treyarch getting with their representation. So on the right is the historically accurate representation of the Titanic and what it really looked like, and on the left is going to be scenes from Voyage of Despair trailer. So on the left is the opening scene of the Voyage of Despair trailer, and where they're located is on the D deck. There are decks A through G, and A is first class, and on the D deck, this is the reception room. In the reception room, first class passengers would meet before entering the dining saloon for dinner, and then after dinner, they would meet here again for tea and to listen to the orchestra play. The scene on the left is definitely identifiable as the reception area. You can see the grand staircase there. The wood is a little bit darker, but everything else matches pretty well. Now, Blundell said in one of his interviews that they were going for some really high detail and replication of the Titanic down to the food that was on tables when the ship actually sank. So I want to look at some of the finer details in these scenes and see how accurate they really are getting. The scene right here shows 3 white columns, and that is accurate for the Titanic. The one on Titanic is a little bit more detailed, so you can see what they're doing here. They're representing like the structure and color and basic shape of things, but maybe not going into such high detail. Right here is a scene of the lounging area, and you can see that, yeah, they got it pretty close. It is like a green tone. It looks like wicker type furniture. All the shapes are there and pretty much the same. The image from the trailer is on the left and in the background, and it's a little bit blurry. There's not a great shot of this furniture, but yeah, you can see it's pretty close. This grand staircase has a few levels, and every level has a piece of art on it, and they definitely put some art there in the trailer that you can see in the background, but in the foreground, that is actually what was on the Titanic. So they're putting art there, but they're not matching it up with what was really on the ship. One thing they did absolutely nail, and it is exact, is the detail on the ceiling. The light fixtures are the same, they're lined up the same. That design and pattern that is on the ceiling is identical. The background picture is the trailer scene. You can see the ceiling there, and then the smaller picture in the foreground is the actual ceiling from what the Titanic looked like. So it seems like the more important iconic details of the ship, they definitely captured. Some of the smaller stuff, not so much, and I'll show you guys some more. Here's that same D deck reception area, and the perimeter of the walls are the same layout. The doors are a different color. They've taken out the columns so that we can probably have more room to run. The light fixtures on the ceiling are laid out the same, and the lighting overall is definitely darker. It looks much more dramatic in the trailer. In the same opening scene, Diego is speaking to a woman in front of the grand staircase, and you can see that that gold detail and the shape of the stairs are pretty identical. Again, the wood is a lot darker in the trailer. There's normally not little lamps on the side of the staircase. They've added those. Right here is a closer shot of the actual metal design and gold detail that was really on the Titanic in the upper right picture. And in the background, here is Diego with that woman again, and you can see that same metal design and gold detail. It's almost identical. They did a really good job with it. Treyarch had to do some real research to get this map to look as close as it does to the Titanic. So when we actually play, we can really appreciate what they've done and how closely they've gotten it to represent it. This scene here is Shaw looking at his pocket watch, and underneath him is the carpet that's in this reception area, and up in the top right corner is the real carpet that was in the Titanic, and that is absolutely spot on identical. So it's really impressive to see that Treyarch is going into such high detail for some of these things on this map. They could have just done a red carpet that resembled it and wasn't exact, but they were like, no, we're going hardcore, we're doing the exact carpet. This scene here is looking away from the grand staircase, still in the reception area, like Diego would be standing behind you if you were actually there, and this is looking towards the dining saloon. The dining saloon is just past those white archways and that brown double door, and I think in the actual map there's no doors there. That's just an open area where you can run through, and that was one of my questions. The Titanic is kind of close quarters, so how are they going to open it up for us so we have more running room? So if we're going to be in this reception reception area and dining area, then yes, they're gonna have to open it up, and taking those doors down and widening it makes a lot of sense. It will give us much more room. One thing I noticed is that the white archways on the right on the real Titanic look much different than what's in the trailer, and that's because it looks like they have raised the ceiling quite a bit. The archways on the real Titanic are like half the size as what is in the trailer, so you can see a huge difference in that ceiling height. So it looks like we're getting more width and more height in these rooms throughout the A, B, C deck area, around the grand staircase, and in some of the suites. There's this tiling that's on the floor. There's one scene where Bruno knocks this guy out, and you can see the floor behind him, and this is identical to what was on the Titanic. You can see the image on the bottom left there. So far the ceilings, the carpets, and the tile are all identical. Here's a comparison of the first class suite, and you can see Shaw, he did actually go in that room in the trailer, so we get a real good look at that fireplace and the wall detail. You can see that they did put a mirror on the wall, and they did some of the detail around the fireplace that is the same. They've got the light wall sconces, those are pretty close. They did the mahogany wood with all that gold trimming, that looks pretty close. This will be a very cool room to go see and check out in the map. I'm sure we have access to it since we saw our characters go in there. There is one characteristic of the Titanic that there's no way they could replicate, and that was the extremely narrow hallways that would go to the cabins. There's a few scenes in the trailer where you see zombies running down the hallways and even our characters, and it looks like it's about 4 people wide, so plenty of room to run. But on the real Titanic, only like one person can get down this hallway. The real Titanic has hundreds of feet of hallways, and I doubt we're gonna have that kind of space on the map. They're definitely gonna be shortening that quite a bit. If you guys ever get to check out this demo of the real Titanic and what it looked like, and you go up and down these hallways, this is kind of spooky. To actually be on the real Titanic, it would be so claustrophobic. It's really crazy. And if you guys do want to check out this demo of the replication of the Titanic, I'll have it linked down in the description. Again, they're still working on the game. It is a free demo. If you have a PC, you can check it out. So all those previous screenshots were from the first trailer that they released, and they did release a second trailer, and I'm going to go through some of those scenes. The opening scene shows the bridge and where they actually steered the Titanic. So this is the front of it, and I believe this is the spawn area as well. Structurally, everything matches up pretty good. You can see those 2 crane-like things on the deck. The things that don't match up that they've added are the 2 staircases on either side of those cranes. I don't know how people got from that decking area back into the ship, probably somehow going down, and it looks like Treyarch had to add those stairs to help us get up into the ship. Other than that, there's a few other small changes, but they didn't redesign a whole lot in this area. One of the next scenes shows the staircase going to the A deck, which is where the first class suites are. There was a very iconic cherub statue holding a torch that lit up, and then there was a clock on the wall in the back. There's also a really iconic glass dome that is right above this area, and you can see it on the right. And in the trailer, this thing shatters and breaks everywhere. I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be part of the Easter egg that maybe makes it shatter when the ship actually starts to sink, maybe. There's a scene that it shows the first class passenger baggage, and then it shows a scene where it's all underwater. So you know that we're gonna be on the ship when it is actually sinking. But again, I'm guessing that it's gonna be Easter egg steps that trigger that to happen. One thing I'm really surprised to see that we're gonna have access to on the ship is the engine room or boiler room. The engine room on the real Titanic was super hard to get around. The catwalks were really narrow, going up and down levels around the engine. You had to climb ladders and descend ladders. I mean, if you guys played this demo and saw what the engine room really looked like, you'd be like, there's no way you could ever play zombies in this room. You just cannot hardly get around in it. So from the trailer, it looks like they've widened the catwalks tremendously, and they've added stairs instead of ladders, so it's going to be much easier to traverse. So the engine room in the map is not going to look anything like the real engine room on the Titanic. This scene here is Scarlett running through a dining area, and this is on the same level as the D-deck reception area. It's just right next to it. So this is the first class dining saloon, and some interesting historical facts about this room is that it was being set up for breakfast during the actual iceberg collision. So when Blundell mentioned in one of his interviews that there was going to be food on plates that was actually on the Titanic when it hit the iceberg, this could be the room that he's talking about. It's kind of hard to see what's going on in this room in the trailer. It's pretty torn up. It looks like it's already got that black stuff growing everywhere, and a lot of the furniture's thrown around. The last scene I want to compare is the B deck, and this is right below the A deck and below the first class suites. On the left in the back, you can see an arched window window that they replicated, and next to that window are some doors, and that's where a lot of the first class passengers would board the ship. You can see the tile on the floor definitely matches. It's broken up quite a bit in the trailer, and the art at the top of the stairs doesn't match. The ceiling and the light fixtures are a little bit different, and it looks like it's a little bit more fancy in the trailer. So after seeing these comparisons and seeing how closely they really are resembling the Titanic, I'm gonna have much more of an appreciation when I play this map. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next video.